Well, hello there, and welcome to this episode of The Terri Cole Show. That I want to start with a question. Have you ever been in, or are you in a relationship now that you kind of know you need to end, but you feel like there are so many things that tie you together, that the friendship group that you've made, or maybe you co-own a house, or you're close with each other's family, it just seems that there's so many things that tie you together, it's almost impossible. Or if you have had a breakup and you just fell into a pit of despair where you just felt like you lost something so profound, sort of something greater than the relationship itself. Anyway, if you are nodding your head, then you're going to love today's video, because in today's video, we're talking about the secondary losses from a breakup, right? What does that mean? Community, friends, identity, routines. There's so many things that when we're in a relationship with someone, we share all of these things. And when we split, those things go away as well as the relationship. So we're going to be talking about what they are, how it's totally normal to feel this way, and how you can really pick up the pieces and create a life for yourself that feels good, that feels right. Because part of it is honoring these secondary losses that will help you grieve and move on. That is what we're talking about in today's video. So before we get into it, if you happen to be new here, please make sure that you subscribe to my channel. There's a ridiculously high number of people who watch all my videos and are not subscribed. Why not? It's free. No skin off your back, and it's good for me. So if you love this channel, please subscribe, hit that little bell icon so that you get notified every time I do something new, which is every Tuesday and every Thursday. Because you know what, you guys, I do it for you, and I wouldn't want you to miss a thing. That's all I'm saying. I also love all the questions and comments. You guys know, normal people watch Netflix. I just read what you guys have to say right here on YouTube, and I love to highlight them. So this is from My Hot Tea, and it's under the video, Unsatisfied in Life, a 6-step process to live in more fulfillment. Thank you, Terri. This episode is phenomenal. The step-by-step process you have illustrated provides a great map to navigate toward the results anyone may seek. Thank you for reminding me about the importance of gratitude. I find it difficult to slow things down and focus on myself. You have inspired me today to do exactly that. Well, Hot Tea, I am very grateful that you took the time to write that comment. It really does mean the world to me. So I'm happy you're here. All right, you guys, let's move it on into today's episode. So where to begin? Well, first, let's talk about the nature of grief a little bit. That grief is not only for the death of a beloved pet or a person. A lot of times we think of grief and we think, oh, a person passed. No, there's grief for many, many things, and the ending of a relationship is one of those things. We can also have grief for the ending of a life cycle. We can have grief for the ending of a career. We can have grief for the loss of a friendship. Like, there's many ways that grief presents in life, and we really need to look at, are you good at goodbyes? Right? This is part of the process and part of the problem with not grieving our losses properly, especially in relationships, is because we are not good at goodbyes. A lot of times endings can be abrupt and it doesn't feel like there was anything that got processed. So in the guide that goes along with this episode, you can get it at terricole.com/guide. I'm going to give you a little blueprint questions about, are you good at goodbyes? Because we need to understand how we relate to things ending and why, if we want to change it. Because honoring your losses is so incredibly important for your mental health. But it can be so easy to just either jump sort of into the victim position or to just move on. Like we go into anger. And you know, anger really is a secondary emotion. Speaking of secondary losses, anger itself is a secondary emotion where what you really feel with the end of a relationship, even if you feel angry, but underneath that, usually the feeling is hurt or sad. And those are emotions that are harder to experience than anger. Grief being experienced in response to a breakup is totally normal, totally valid, right? Even if you were the one who initiated the breakup. So I want you to think about that, because a lot of times, like for me, in my life when I was dating, or, I was more of a serial monogamist than I was a dater, but having to end relationships was so hard. Listen, being ditched is hard too. Don't get me wrong. But at least if someone breaks up with you, at least for me, what I experienced was more anger than if I had to do the breaking up. I experienced more guilt feelings because there's not one person, because I've only ever really had long-term relationships. I mean, every one of those people I loved, and I still do. I mean, if I really loved them then, there's a part of my heart that still loves them now. So even when you don't want to be with someone, you don't want to hurt them, especially if you're an empath and a highly sensitive person. You don't want to hurt them either. It is just so brutal. Neither position is great. Like, ending things is difficult, which is why it's important that we understand our blueprint for endings. How did our family of origin deal with it? What did we see? Were these celebrated? Were they not? Were they processed? Were they not? Endings, because a lot of endings, like someone graduating from college or high school or someone retiring. Some people are really good at celebrating those things. And some people just want it to, just be a regular day and they don't want to deal with it. So again, if you don't want to deal with it, I would say then you're not great at goodbyes. There's something about it that you don't like. There are so many layers of grief, though, that we go through with a breakup because you're not just losing one person, right? Now you have to mourn the way you thought this relationship was going to go. The future that you were really invested in creating with this person is now not going to happen, right? You were dreaming this together, basically, whether you thought that you'd, move to a beach or have kids together, whatever the thought was. When you break up, now that dream is dying, right? What else? Your routines you get into. What do you do on your weekends? What do you do at night? You make dinner together. One of you cooks, you go out to dinner, whatever your thing is. But every couple gets into some kind of a routine that creates their life. And then you have the mutual friend group, right? Maybe you kept your own friends too. Great. But maybe you have a couples group now. It gets messy. When friends of mine who've been in my couple group break up, and I've had this experience, you're most likely not going to stay friends with both of them, especially if it is a rough divorce or a rough breakup, right? I just figure whatever friend I came in with is probably going to be the friend I'm going out with, and that's how I do it, feeling like I want to be loyal to the friend who I was friends with first, kind of. But it's also painful because, you lose good friends that way. You also, there's a lifestyle that you lose, right? Because when you're alone, paying for everything, that's and even if you make a lot of money, right? There's something about having two incomes that sort of allows you to do more or different things. For many of us, our identity is something that we lose. You might have become very identified with being a part of that couple, or you really liked the way you looked with this person, or how they presented, or what they did in life. I remember having a client. She was my client before she was in a relationship, but she really wanted to be in a relationship with a doctor or a dentist. Now, I know that sounds weird, but it was very important to her mother. It was like a status thing. So she ends up dating a dentist. They get married, but she's friggin' miserable, but she doesn't care. Like, she literally cares more. She's like, listen, this is a lifestyle thing. I mean, and she lived in a huge mansion and had, black Amex. Like, she did what she wanted. And I was like, okay, who am I to judge? But it's like, if he had divorced her, and he didn't in this scenario, but let's just say he had, the dream of her being with a dentist would be the thing that was dying. And so much of the time, we're not necessarily mourning the relationship itself. So much of the time, we're mourning the dream that we had for it, what we thought it could be. So having intense feelings after a breakup is completely normal, right? Rage, guilt, sorrow, anger, frustration, abandonment, emptiness. There's a huge range of emotions that is completely normal to feel. So kind of allow yourself, like, grief at times, it's interesting how I describe it, or my own experience. It's like you can feel perfectly fine, and then something can remind you of that relationship, and you can like just spontaneously burst into tears. It's almost like it peeks its head out from around the curtain. You know what I mean? And you're like, oh, and it can be so painful when that happens. But just know that the more you actively mourn the loss of that, and the more you identify the secondary losses that you experienced from the breakup and give them their due. If you were close with your partner's sister and now you feel like that's no longer possible, write down. You'll journal, and I'll give you these prompts in the guide, but about what you're going to miss. And I'll give you the prompts to sort of properly mourn a relationship. But again, we will do this with keeping in mind those secondary losses, like group, lifestyle, the sense of belonging that may have come from being a part of a couple. Honoring your emotions is one of the most important experiences. Honoring the way that you really feel, right? Care about how you feel. Allow yourself to be sad, right? Even if the person did you wrong, or even if you did them wrong, or whatever, and even if nobody did anybody wrong, whatever your feelings are, you have a right to them. But if we stuff them down, and a lot of times the people in our life, especially if they didn't like your partner, are like, okay, great, you're single now. It's time to move on. Let's go. Like, there's not a lot of sympathy, I find. If the people in your life didn't like your partner, didn't think they were great for you, it's almost like they expect you to be as happy as they are that it's over. But you're not going to be. So I'll give you also in the guide just past ways of self-soothing. I've actually done quite a bit of stuff on self-soothing and how important it is. And we're not self-soothing in place of processing the emotions, but be kind. Take a hot bath. Let yourself out of obligations that you really don't want to do, right? Like, really treat yourself with gentleness. Create a super soothing environment. Like, you're recovering from a massive loss. Let's not just be like business as usual, because it doesn't work. If we don't honor the truth of how we're feeling, those feelings are going to come out every which way, right? It's not just directly. You will displace your aggression. You will cry at something that you're not even really sad about. A Hallmark commercial will make you bawl your eyes out. Like, if we don't process the truth of our emotions, they kind of manage us, right? And you also may have regrets. You may have done something that you wish you hadn't. You may feel blindsided right now. All of these are really normal emotions to have when a relationship ends, and even one that needed to end. And this can be especially difficult if you're getting a divorce, right? And you need to see this person because you've got court proceedings, because you've got kids. Give yourself so much grace throughout, and give yourself as much protection as you possibly can. Like, spend time with your most comforting, caregiving, non-judgmental friends, and don't let everyone and their mother give you stupid advice, because you know that they're going to, right? And you don't need it. It's really your time to grieve. And so let's just talk about some practical things that you can do to help your process of mourning the loss of the relationship, but then the secondary losses we've talked about as well. You want to block your person on all social media, just both of you. And you can have a conversation about this. It's not doing it in meanness. It's just giving you a break from each other. It's hard not to look at what the other person is doing. And it can be very painful to see, especially if they're doing well and you're still crying in your tea. You know what I mean? And then we're going to really look at, and you'll do this through the mourning exercise that I have for you. But we're going to look at the good, the bad, and the ugly of the relationship, because we have to be honest. We have to take an inventory. We have to look at what was great and what wasn't, because it can also be easy to put on rose-colored glasses in hindsight and sort of feel bad about yourself, when what is really helpful is learning from the relationship, which I will give you those questions in the guide, terricole.com/guide. Carving out time just to focus on you is one of the most profoundly healing things that you can do. So, people are like, get back on the horse. I never feel like that's the way to go. If you spontaneously meet someone and you fall madly in love, okay, fine. But generally speaking, why don't we just fall madly in love with ourselves? Why don't you see your friends? Why don't you take a break, right? Why don't you really focus on self-care, self-consideration, self-love, things that light you up, getting inspired, like loving on yourself for a while is really helpful. And listen, we should be doing it all the time, but I just know that there can be a tendency, and maybe I'm just projecting my past tendency to sort of just out of the frying pan into the fire. It's like I really was a serial monogamist where I kind of went from relationship to relationship. And actually, interestingly enough, the only relationship that I didn't go straight from one relationship to another was my husband, Victor, right? I was actually single for like a very short period of time, but better than any other relationship I'd had for decades. I just went from one to the next, like 5 years with this person, 8 years with that person. And I think that there was something really important for me about being single before getting into a relationship with Vic, because I was really ready to be alone. I did all of my work in mourning the past losses and processing the past relationships to understand what didn't work, what red flags did I not see, why did I feel compelled to get into that relationship to start with. And there was something incredibly liberating about just giving myself time to fall madly and deeply in love with myself. That needed to happen, So the last thing I want to say about this is it's very important also that you set boundaries early and often, right? Because you don't want everyone and their mother giving you their unsolicited advice about what you should do with your love life. And you definitely don't want people telling you about what your ex is doing. So we need really good boundaries so that the moving on process is easier and can become more natural. Like there's got to be, I love rituals. You can do a ritual in the letting go. You can do your process and I'll have you burn it after you answer those questions and you're doing sort of the relationship assessment exercise that I'll give you in the guide. And ritualize and let the person go with equanimity, with love, because that's what's best for you. So I'd love to hear your 2 cents on this process. Did it add value to your life? I really hope that this episode gave you something. And if you're in pain, that maybe it was soothing in some way to you. I hope you guys have the most amazing week. And as always, take care of you.